Hey guys, this is Kathy Iconis with QBO Chat, and we are here with David Leary with Melio today to get a deeper dive in getting more of the advanced tips and tricks on how to do things. So we are watching people jump in, and they are actually attending and jumping in this time, David, instead of me messing up my Zap and everything last week.
It was a good try.
So
We tried, right? So now we're gonna
yes,
have a little,
now we
little
got
more
it.
better turnout this time.
Absolutely. It was, a minute beforehand that I realized, oh, nothing worked. And I had no one registered, even though I had a ton of people that had filled out the form. So we're all here today. I love all of these people coming in. Thank you guys. If you have any questions along the way, please just pop them into the Q&A down wherever it is on your screen. And yeah, I think David has a lot of good content for us today. This is definitely not an intro. So we have an intro recorded already. It's up on the website. If you want to watch that, you can at any point in time.
I got a slide with the link, so that way.
Oh, there you go. So yeah, that's it. I'll just hand it over to you, David, if you want to.
All right, let me share screen here.
Okay.
Sorry, my webcam's right in the middle of the share screen button. There we go. Let's share the entire screen. Hopefully I'm sharing now. Yes, no, thumbs up.
Yes, you are.
All right. So unfortunately, I'm in my recording studio. You can't really tell because I have my background on, but I have a separate PC in here, and somehow or another, the font doesn't seem to come over to this PC very well for my slide deck. So I do apologize if somewhere in the slides, the letters seem to be pushed together. I'm gonna have to figure out why the font acts differently on this computer than my other computer. So if anything looks mushy or you can't read a word, let Kathy know in the chat and she can interrupt me and say, what is this word where the letters are all jumbled up? That's probably it. And I clicked and it's not going to the next screen there. So quick review. So we've already done an intro to Melio on QBO Chat before. A lot of people have attended it. A lot of you, I'm assuming that came today, are using Melios, but I do want to just go through a quick review a little bit. So if you haven't already, go and watch this demo. So this will be really just an introduction to Melio, who Melio's for, really compare and contrast what I call as purple Melio versus the Melio that's inside of QuickBooks Online, which we call green Melio. So if you're not familiar with those concepts, green and purple, and paying bills with a credit card using Melio, any of that type of stuff, go and do this session and then come back and watch the recording of this one. Because if you watch this one, I'm just not going to cover up some of this basic stuff. And the URL is right there across the bottom. So just a little background on me. And again, you can watch the other video to find out a lot more about me. Long story short, I've been with Melio now since February of 2020. So we're pushing about a good 18, 19 solid months. I was the first accountant hire at Melio when Melio decided, hey, we're going to start building a product for accountants. I was the first one to come on. And I think QBO Chat, I think that April was the first demo I think I ever did of Melio out in the public.
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah.
So it's been, go ahead.
I said, thank you for supporting us all these years too.
I'm going to adjust my volume here. Hold on. I can't hear you very well. Is that better? Did you tell?
I think so.
All right. That works.
Yeah. Okay.
And we've been on this journey of constantly adding functionality to Melio for accountants specifically, but just to Melio in general. And it's to the point now where I think we have enough content for an advanced Melio, and that's what today is about. Not going to be very slide heavy. It's really just getting in the weeds. Hey, did you know Melio could do this? Did you know Melio could do this? Oh, don't forget about this. It's really being, a layer deeper than some of those introduction ones covered. So we don't forget, if you have any questions, Melio has a dedicated accountants team. Everybody on the team certified in QuickBooks Online. You can reach us at accountants@melio.com. You could start a chat inside the product and talk directly to the accountants team. Or if you forget all that, just go to melio.com/accountants and you'll find the same links there. So who's Melio for? And this is interesting. So now my font's skinnier on some screens. I don't understand. But it's just super easy to use. B2B payments and receivables. That's the key to remember, right? It's B2B. And if you remember, they talked about the founding tenets of Venmo and how it's carried through to Melio. So Venmo is easy to use. Your mom can use it. In Venmo, you can send money for free, right? The only time if I send Kathy money, if she chooses to get the money deposited in her bank account faster, there's a fee for that, right? And then choice, how to send and receive money. I can choose to use my credit card. I could use my Venmo balance. I could use my checking account. Kathy doesn't know or care. And frankly, when I pay Kathy with Venmo, I don't care what she does with the money. If she keeps it in Venmo, if she does an ACH deposit, if she does an direct instant deposit through a debit card, I just don't care. Same tenets are in Melio. Melio is easy to use. Your clients are going to feel comfortable using it. Businesses can pay each other for free. So B2B payments is free. Anything special you want to send the check, instant payments, overnight, ACH, you want to do a FedEx paper check, there's fees for those types of things. And then there's choice. Again, I can choose to pay with any one of my 7 or 8 methods of payment that I have on my side of Melio. And Kathy can choose to get a paper check, do an ACH deposit. She can do an instant direct deposit through her debit card. She can choose her business, how they want to be paid. And again, we talked about this. There's a purple Melio and green Melio. Just for sake of conversations, it's a lot less to use those 2 words versus saying QuickBooks bill paid powered by Melio. It's easier to say green Melio. And again, if you want to remember the differences between these 2, go look at that other recording, cover it pretty deep there. And again, Melio has no fees, it's free. Anything special, there's going to be a fee for. And then remember who Melio is for. So with your clients, you kind of have clients that are over here on the left, the free options they're currently using. There's a complex, expensive enterprise level AP software over here on the right. Most of your clients are over here on the left, and it's left a gap in the market. So like for 8 to 10 years, you've been telling your clients either overpay for something you don't need, $50, $60, $70, $90, $100 a month, or you told your clients suffer with the bank website. There's really been no solution on the market to cover the vast majority of your client base, and that's where Melio comes in. You can put this really for most of your clients. So this is new. This is a new slide, Kathy. I told you I would bring something new. This is actually the only new slide I have. After this, I think we're going to jump into product type stuff. So where Melio fits in your AP workflow. Ultimately, your goal, right, is to get a bill and get the vendor paid. You're getting the bill, you want to pay the vendor. And so really there's kind of like 4 paths to do this through Melio. One is very straightforward. You upload or scan your bill directly into Melio. You schedule a payment in Melio. The money gets sent from Melio. The vendor gets paid. So this is the simplest way to do this. And if you notice, these are all purple for purple Melio. Another easy way to do it is pretty straightforward. You're just going to do it in QuickBooks. You're going to enter a bill in QuickBooks. It's going to exist. You're going to schedule the payments in QuickBooks, and it's going to get sent by Melio. The vendor is going to get paid. 2 very simple paths. The vendor gets paid. Maybe you want to upload the bill in QuickBooks. Now it's in QuickBooks. You could schedule the payment using Purple Melio, and then that'll come down as well. So you kind of have an option. Either one of those scheduled payment paths will work with just one bill at the start in QBO. Another option is you can upload using a capture app. So maybe you're using Dext or an auto entry, a HubDoc, a Vic AI. Those apps are going to scan that bill. They're going to put it into QBO. And then from QBO, you could schedule the payment, or you could use Purple Melio and pull down and schedule the payment that way. Either way, it gets you into those same routes and moves it through the system. Maybe you have a little bit more complex where you need approvals. Hold on, I'm going to hide my video screen. Sorry about that. So I just have a little bit more room to see in here. Perfect. So you can upload your bill, schedule the payment, and then maybe you're using approval. So now you're going to kick off an approval workflow. You're going to have it payment approved, then the money will send. Maybe it's really complicated where you need the bill approved first. So here you could use Dext. Dext will send the bill to Approval Max. You can do all kinds of crazy approvals and bill Approval Max as far as like, if the bill is this much money, it needs to go to Department A and this manager. So you can do all those approvals for the bill. Then once the bill is approved, it'll send the bill to QuickBooks Online. And then from QuickBooks Online, Melio will see it. You can schedule the payment and have an improvement on the payment. And then the money will send and the vendor gets paid. So it's a much bigger path and a complex path, but it's an option you have. So you can use Melio in the simplest form where you just scan a bill and pay a bill, to a very complex form where you use Dext, use Approval Max to approve the bill, move it through QuickBooks, use Melio to pay it, and then you have a approval of the payment. So it's a bigger workflow as that money goes through. So let's jump in a little bit. Let me change my screen here. We're not done, I swear. Let me go back. Move this out of the way. Sorry, I'm moving my screen sharing options around here. All right, there we go. Got it. So the first thing I want to get into is just talking a little bit about getting your payments not delayed, because this is a problem I think a lot of people that use Melio are running into, and why it's just issues in general. So the first thing that's going to delay your payment is you're doing something that is not allowed by our risk department. And this is going to be similar to the ban list that you're going to see on other merchant account services, et cetera. So if it's gambling related, right? You can't use this to collect money for your fantasy football league. If it's anything in the pharmaceuticals industry, you can't do that. Pornography, you can't do that. Weapons, you can't do that. You can't use this to for the exchange of precious metals or diamonds and gold, that types of thing. You can't do toxic or flammable materials, right? Or really anything that's subject to government regulation at all. These are the types of things where somebody won't, cannabis, right? Cannabis is not allowed yet. It's not a federally approved payment method thing that you can by the federal government yet. So you can't do cannabis with Melio, right? And the other thing that will delay payments is personal payments. So you can't do this to invest the money into Bitcoin or to pay for your e-liquid cigarettes addiction or your babysitter, right? It's only business to business payments. It's not for anything that's a personal payment at all. A couple other things that are going to catch people all the time is you'll set up your client. I'm going to go into settings and company settings. So in Melio, you have your business address and everybody puts this in, but you actually on all your clients, you have to put in their legal information. So if you don't fill out the company legal information, this is just under your company settings, company legal information, the payments won't go through. Right? This is how we know it's a business. This is how we verify it's a business. This is how we know that the tax ID number has been supplied. So you want to make sure you always check on all your clients when you're setting them up. If you just take the time to make sure they're not in legal business, that are one that we don't support, and then make sure the legal address is in here, it's going to speed along the process to get your payment out the door. The third thing that happens a lot is micro deposits. People will set up the payment method for a micro deposit. So I set up an account here this morning. I added my Square Cash app to Melio. It says to verify the account because it's waiting on my micro deposits, right? So this is where Melio is going to send 2 test deposits to your bank account to make sure the account number and the routing numbers are correct. And you'll take those numbers and then type them back in. So a lot of people, they set up an account, they forget about the micro deposits. A week later, you come in here to send a payment, and now you can't send a payment because you haven't verified the account. So if you're looking to not have your payments delayed, make sure you follow up on all the things like verifying your account along the way. The other thing I think that a lot of people make a mistake is you set up the account and you instantly want to pay somebody you've never paid before $20,000, right? And so it's a brand new account, $20,000, and next thing you know, the vendor, you didn't have their bank account information set correctly. So what I recommend that everybody does on any new vendor, so let's do a new payment here. I'm going to add a bill manually. Okay, so I'm going to add Kathy as a new vendor. I'm just going to put her as a conferences, and this is going to be a $6 bill. So I'm going to do a test payment with her, and I'm actually just do a test payment of $3. And test payment. Because I don't want to send her the $30,000 I owe her until I know that it's working from a test scenario. And I'll just pick a date here in the future. I'm going to save and schedule a payment. I'm going to choose to pay her out of my checking account. I'm going to hit continue. Yeah, sorry, I'm ducking around my webcam here. There we go. And I'm going to do a bank transfer. Now, this is why doing a test payment is correct, because if I mistype the bank account here, and I'm trying to do a $30,000 payment, the first payment to Kathy, and I mistype one of these, or worse, Kathy mistypes her own bank account information when I have her self-onboard her bank information, which has happened, she won't get the payment. So I'm going to save a wrong routing number. Let's see. What's a good routing number? Let me see here. I have one second. Cheat screens. I get a routing number.
Did you just get your checkbook?
What? No, I did not get my checkbook.
You laying down.
Oh, yeah, all right. 041 215 663. Okay, that should be a valid routing number now. Save bank details. But that's a completely wrong fake bank account number, right? And so I don't want to send a payment for, you know, $50,000, $30,000 on my first payment if I haven't tested like a $5 payment. Now, obviously, if the $100 payment is probably okay, you're going to feel at that comfort level for your client, but usually this seems to only go wrong when it's big amounts. It feels like when people send their first payment for $20,000, they realize the bank account's wrong, and now they've delayed everything because now we have to go get the money back from some other bank. That somebody's bank account where this money showed up has to be pulled back and then getting all the way back to your client. So there's obviously that's going to add a lot of delays. So I'm just going to put this in, and I'm going to say continue. So always do a test payment, because if it doesn't go through, it's not a big deal. Now you haven't sent the real payment, you fix what needs to be fixed. So then when you go to send the real $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 payment, it'll go through. The other thing that causes payment delays are 1099 contractors. So there's some ways to kind of avoid this a little bit. Make sure in QuickBooks they're marked as a 1099 contractor. In your memo, the first time you're paying that vendor, so in this case, when I did Kathy's, I typed test, but maybe the first time I do the payment to a 1099 contractor, I might put in 1099 contractor, right? Make sure you've uploaded the bill. So either the bill will be uploaded automatically from QuickBooks Online, or you've manually uploaded the bill or typed in the bill, and you want to make sure that's there so it looks like it's truly a 1099 payment, not a payment to your babysitter, et cetera. Because with 1099 contractors gets confusing because a lot of them commingle their funds, right, Kathy? And then they have a personal checking account, and it sets up red flags that it's a personal payment, not a business-to-business payment. So there's just other tricks and ways to avoid that delayed payment is by specifying that it's for a 1099 contractor that first time that you pay them. Melio does do employee reimbursements. You can't use it for payroll, so don't do that. That'll delay payments. But if you have an employee that you have to reimburse, enter the bill for the amount you need to reimburse them for, and then you reimburse the employee. A lot of the apps, I know AutoEntry does this. If your employee uses AutoEntry, they can submit your expense report. AutoEntry takes all their expenses, the receipts, wraps them up to a bill, puts them in QuickBooks, and then I can reimburse my employee right through Melio because that bill is now in QuickBooks, and then I reimburse that way. But you can't use it for payroll. It's that's not what it's for. So let me change screens here. All right, so first I'm just going to jump into a little bit of the inbox. And so we talked about before how Melio is a little workflow driven, right? So you have your accounts payable section, you have your inbox, you're scheduled, and you're paid. So the inbox is here. And then as you pay a bill or schedule a payment, it moves to scheduled. Then when it clears your bank, it's removed from your bank account, it moves over to paid. So a couple of things that are things to watch out for here or to understand. We do pull the attachments for QuickBooks. So I put a bill into for QBO chat earlier today. It's in my QuickBooks. And if you look, it has an attachment. So I put in an attachment. And what we do is we don't actually upload the attachment to Melio. What we do is we link directly to the image that's in QBO. So instead of your image living in two spots, we just link directly to the image. So when I hit on this image, if you look, it's showing me the bill. Now, actually said I didn't upload a bill. I took a picture of Kathy and I before we started. But if you look, this is on the QuickBooks server.
Oh
right?
my
This is on
God, that
Intuit
is
servers.
the worst.
It is not on our server. So
Can
so
you
your
make that
source.
picture worse?
Go ahead, Kathy. I'm sorry. Can you hear you?
I'm like, can you make that picture worse of me?
I could use the one from last week when we.
That would be actually a better one. Like, look at how unhappy I am. Oh my God. Okay.
That's
Move on.
because you didn't know you were going to be a bill. Yes. So.
Oh my God.
So that's just something to really think about is the images come through, but it is actually still on the QuickBooks server. We don't store it a second time because why do you want two sources of truth for your bill, right? You just want it to live in one spot. Something else has been added. We can now do batch payments. So I'm going to add a second bill here for Kathy. Bill manual for QBO chat. Let's see, this one's due here. I'm going to choose to use my checking account. Whoops. I'm going to go back. I don't want to pay this because I want to demo the batch payment. So paying one bill doesn't make a lot of sense. So with the added now, you can pay batch payments out of Melio. And if you notice, when I slowly roll over each bill, I get like a little checkbox. Can you see that? Right. So I can actually choose to check mark multiple bills. They don't have to be for the same vendor. I could choose 3 different vendors at this if I want and create multiple then. But let's say I want to pay Kathy's bills. And I don't want to click twice to do all this. I can check mark both of those. I can choose to send a batch payment, and it's going to batch these together and pay them on the days I specify, either pay them all right now today or by the dates that I have on each bill for the due date. I'm just going to just say all at once. So I'm going to hit continue. And so now I'm in the multiple bill payment workflow, the batch payments, right? And this is where I can see, okay, both are here. I'm going to deliver both by check. Those delivery dates, they're both late because I was lazy about the dates I put in, and then the amounts are there. So I'm just going to do schedule payments. And so now it's scheduled those 2 payments. So now if I look at my scheduled folder here, I see that I have the $10 one that I entered, and I have the $5 one that I uploaded before with the image on it, if we want to look at the image again. So those are both there. Now I paid those with one workflow. It's not as impressive when you're paying 2, but if I would have picked 8, 10 bills, it'd be a lot more impressive because I did it all in one click, right? Or one workflow. Any questions on the batch payments at all, Kathy?
Yeah. So the question just came in. Will the option to send one payment for multiple bills be added?
Yes, it's being worked on. So it's something the team is aware of. The team is working on it. And the opposite is true as far as partial payments. That's coming any day now. You'll be able to partially pay bills as well. So multiple bills under one check, or partially paying a bill, you'll be able to do, or splitting your bill payment to multiple payment methods. Maybe you want to pay half your bill with a credit card and half your bill with a check, to be able to do that. Or maybe you want to send some of your bill through ACH next day, and maybe you want to pay the rest of the bill through normal ACH, right? So that way maybe the vendor needs an instant deposit of some percentage of the bill. You can do things like that.
Perfect.
Let me get into kind of the options you have when you pay bills now. So I'm going to go, actually, before I do that, I'm going to jump out. There's a second way to get to pay multiple bills. And if I get into Chrissy here, so now if any time I'm viewing the vendor list, if a vendor has any unpaid bills, there's a button at the top to view the unpaid bills and to pay them. And this instantly is going to drop me into the pay multiple bills workflow for this per vendor. So depending on how you're navigating around, if you're on a vendor, you're like, hey, there's multiple bills, you click on it, you could take care of all the bills for that one vendor. You can get to the same spot through the vendor list as well. You don't have to just do the check boxes that I showed before. I'm going to cancel this and go back to pay bills. And we'll kind of talk about payment methods here a little bit. So let's schedule a payment for Christine here. All right, so I'm going to choose to just pay Chrissy by a check. So I'm going to start with my checking account. Oh, actually, she's already set up for ACH, so I'm not going to be able to do that. So I'll skip check and I'll go back and show check on another vendor here. So in her case, I can do a regular ACH. It's going to take about 3 business days from whenever I choose it to leave my bank account, right? So if I have it leave my bank account on the 9th, it's going to get to her about the September 14th through 3 business days, 1, 2, 3. I can do a same day delivery. And so this is what we call as fast ACH. So what this will do is this will leave my bank account on the 9th, and it'll go into Chrissy's vendor's bank account on the 9th as well. There's a fee for that to do the same day delivery. The other option we have is I can pay a bill by a credit card. Let's see. So I'm going to pay a bill by a credit card. Hit continue. And so when I pay a bill by a credit card, because it's not using the ACH system, it's you cut out those extra days of delivery. So if I pay a bill by a credit card, it's going to come out of my bank account on the 9th, and the vendor should get that out the next day. Right? That's another way to do the speed. The other option, let me go back to a vendor that I have not paid yet. So I think I just added Kathy earlier, right? So
yep.
Kathy. Oh, I don't have any bills. All right, I'll make another new bill for Kathy here. $7 one. Actually, hold on 1 second here. This. We put in fake bank account information for Kathy before. So
right.
let me
did you do it for QBO Chat?
I don't have bank account information for. All right, let's do this one here.
Okay.
Banner Buzz. We'll pay Banner Buzz instead. We'll go manually. I'll choose my checking account again. All right, so this time, if I want, I can actually choose to mail a paper check, and I can actually specify the vendor's address when they mail out that paper check. Now, the best way to do this is to not to do any of these options and to let the vendor choose themselves. So you can ask the vendor for their payment details. All I need to do is have the vendor's email address, and then it'll send the vendor an email asking them how they want to be paid. I think I have a slide here in the appendix. Yeah. So they will get an email that says, hey, you have a payment from Sombrero Apps Company. How would you like to receive your payment? And they can specify if they want a paper check or if they want a bank transfer. If they choose to do bank transfer, they'll put in their ACH information. When they get their ACH information, it'll come back to Melio, and now they've been onboarded. So you don't have to do that onboarding of the ACH information. It'll come through automatically. There's actually a third option that they've been experimenting with a little bit, to where it'll do a direct deposit through a debit card. Now, there's a fee for that. Now, Kathy, have you ever done this before where you can do an instant deposit through a debit card?
No.
All right.
I
So I did it with Venmo just to see. So I had Venmo. I put in my debit card information to do an instant deposit, right? By the time I switched on my phone to my credit union and opened up my credit union app, my banking app for my credit union, the deposit was already in my bank account. So direct deposit that goes through the debit rails is literally instantaneous. And so that's an option that we're going to start allowing vendors to choose. They'll have a third option to get paid. They can choose to get an instant deposit through their debit card, which is another option. And switch back over here.
Now, we do have a question.
Yep.
Will the self onboard be available via Green Melio?
So that is available in Green Melio as we speak. It is there today. You basically get the same choice. You can ask them for their payment details and the Green Melio as well. And the one thing we've recently added is you can actually, and this is a request from accountants, they set up a new client, they set up all the vendors. They don't want to have to wait till they pay a vendor to get that ACH information. So you can go to any vendor, A+ bookkeeping, it's maybe not the best one. Let's go to Acuity scheduling here. And I can actually send a request right from the vendors itself. So I don't even have to put a bill in yet. And I can send a request to ask for the payment, the ACH information. So even before I create bills, and so this is a feature that was added just because accountants and bookkeepers wanted to get this in there. So I can schedule I do is to get their email address, and then they can onboard how they want to receive their payments automatically. Going back to the paid. So that's kind of all the options and different ways to get something paid. So you have your batch payments, you can control the speed of your payments. You can also edit payments before they go out the door. So I know we had these 2 payments for Kathy, and let's say this payment right here, this $5 payment's incorrect. I can click on the payment as long as it's in scheduled. Once it's paid means it's out of my bank account. There's nothing I can do. But as long as it's still in scheduled, I can choose to edit this. And I can change anything about this I want. I'm like, oh, I want to use a different checking account. Okay. And then I'm going to hit my continue button. I'm going to continue to send it as a paper check. I'll hit continue. And I'm going to have this deducted on the 22nd instead of what I had before. So that should come on the 22nd. And then, oh, there's another option. I could actually, if I want, since I'm pending a paper check, I could send this through FedEx for an additional fee if I want to have tracking on a paper check that I need to overnight to Kathy. Start here, continue. I'm going to hit leave a memo. This payment was edited. Continue. So now the payment I did for Kathy for QBO chat and I moved and edited, it's now showing up on the 22nd instead. And now it's using the other bank account I chose. Also, all the edits I made appear here, and that's been edited. And as of right now, so this is a payment I did through ACH. This payment has not cleared yet, so it's still not fully cleared. But if I go to a payment that's maybe been deposited, I'm trying to find an older paper check here. Sorry, I got my webcam's right in the way of the arrow. Show ACH. I need to find a paper check. Hold on. Let's do Christine. Okay. Trying to think of a vendor I sent a paper check to. But we have a deposit flag that shows when a payment's been deposited. I'm not seeing it right now here as well. Let me come back to this one. I apologize for that. We'll talk about that a little bit. One thing we do have is we have a search feature. So the search is going to work by name or amount. So I could search for $30. And it's going to show me any payments that are for $30. I can search by a name. Let's do QBO. Okay, so I don't have any payments that have completed for QBO. Let's do Christine. Or I can search by the name and see all the payments for a certain name. Now, I can't do any logic. So I can't do all the payments for Christine and that were $30. That won't work. We don't have any logic on our search, so that's not going to work. But just typing one or the other is going to work, right? And it doesn't work with or logic either. So our search field does not have any of the logic added to it. But as of right now, you can search and find things you're looking for pretty quickly with the search that exists. And let me go back over to, I think that's pretty much it for the get paid side, the paying bill side. I might actually, let me do this. I'm going to skip over to QuickBooks Online. Before I get into the accounts receivable side, Kathy, I'm going to jump over to QuickBooks Online and just show you how some of the changes that have been made there for QuickBooks Online. So in QuickBooks Online, before we've talked about paying a bill and how there's the schedule payments right from QuickBooks, right inside of QuickBooks. Before we called it Melio Green, right? And this workflow inside of here is very similar to Purple Melio. In fact, if you go to that old presentation from the introduction, I actually have them side by side, the workflow between Purple Melio and Green Melio, and that the screens are essentially the same thing. But we've added some additional functionality because a couple of things you couldn't do is once you were in here and you were looking at a bill payment, it was hard to get any information about this bill payment inside of QBO. So now, if it's, Zoom is going slow here. Let me go to that older one. There we go. So now I can view information about that payment that I've made through Melio. So I'm going to click View Online Payment. And so inside of QuickBooks Online now, you kind of can access, if you want to think about it as a dashboard. So it's very similar to Melio. You have your unpaid, your scheduled, and your paid. And inside here, you can see all the information about those payments, whether if it's been sent, if it's been deposited. And this spike should be showing up in Purple Melio. I think we have a bug that I need to write up because these should be showing up on the list of payments. I think I have a bug which it's not showing up, but it should show all the payments that are deposited right here. But this is all new. You can access all the information about your bank account information here. You can actually see your vendors here. You change your payment methods. I can actually see the vendors here, and I can edit any vendor, right? And I can add the methods as well. Go back, get back again. So, and if you look inside of here, all the work I was doing with Kathy inside of Purple Melio is showing up here in QuickBooks, right? So the transactions carry back to QuickBooks as well. So let me jump into the accounts payable side. Before we do that, Kathy, are there any accounts, I'm sorry, the accounts receivable side, are there any accounts payable questions that are popping up?
Yeah, we have a lot of stuff going on. Can you speak to international payments and Melio?
We don't do international payments yet. Knock on wood. It's coming soon. I know I've said this before, but you know, it's definitely something. It's a little more complicated. It takes a little longer to get to the finish line.
Okay. Then the next one, Laura, you might need to define this a little bit better. What is the status of adding this to QB Desktop non-plus version? Which I feel like QBO has a non-plus version, but QB Desktop I don't think has a plus.
So we recently rolled out bill payment powered by Melio inside of QuickBooks Desktop, but they are keeping it. Intuit is keeping that only in the Desktop Plus version. We integrate on the accounts receivable side with QuickBooks Desktop. We probably will do Purple Melio integration to QuickBooks Desktop in the future. But you know, right now the priority is QBO. That's where most of the demand is. That's where most people that are doing online things and using apps like Melio are at. It doesn't mean we won't ever do QuickBooks Desktop. It's just right now from a priority standpoint, it's probably a higher priority. QuickBooks Online is.
Perfect. You know more about, desktop than I do. Shocker.
This is QBO chat.
Right. Yes, I know nothing about desktop, so it makes perfect sense. I'm going to try to shorten Melissa's question about getting emails, and the approvers are receiving emails telling them that they're unpaid bills, but I don't want the approver to receive an email until I've scheduled the payment. How do we kind of work with the emails?
So the vendor will not get an email until the payment's out of your bank account, because you have time to schedule it, right? So when I made those payments for you, Kathy, right? You're not going to get an email until that leaves my bank account, because I could change it every day. Like, you don't want to get an email like, David's going to pay you on the 12th. Oh, now he changed to the 22nd. Now he did this. Now he changed the bank account. There won't be notifications for that. As the vendor, you'll get notified when the money leaves the bank account.
Okay, but let's talk about
regarding the approvers. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, you're getting there. Yeah.
So regarding the approvers and everything internal, yes, a lot of emails go out. There's something we are working on to address that. I should have my emails open here. Let me see. Let me give her my phone. Sorry. Let me. So we are on the stepping stones here of making consolidated emails. And the example of this, here we go. Let me see if I can sign in on this computer here. Let's see. I'm going to stop sharing for one quick second. Hold on. Sorry.
That's cool. So since I haven't done it necessarily, it's when I have an approver I guess they're a user, so they're always seeing that there's bills ready to be paid, even though they haven't. They're not.
So they'll see yet. All the email activity goes out. So let me share my screen again. All right. So this is this first. We're on the march towards consolidated emails or summary emails, and batch payments is kind of the first proof of concept of that. So remember, I did that batch payment, and I did 2 payments, right, at the same time. Instead of 2 separate emails going out, if I would have done 8 payments, instead of 8 emails going out, there's 1 email summarizing what happened. And so this is kind of the march. In the future, we will send summary emails instead of these 8, 10, 12, individual emails over and over and over again, if that makes sense.
Do you have an example of what the email looks like when you need the approver to approve the bill?
I don't have that in my inbox right now, the second, but the email looks very similar. Is it'll say that instead of it saying a payment's been scheduled, it'll say that you need to approve the payment. And there's a big button that says, click here to approve. And then when you click it, it takes you to Melio to approve it. But the email essentially is the same summary information that's on all these emails.
Okay.
But so what I really wanted to show is that when we're starting on that march to do summaries, right? Because that's what we've heard lots of feedback. People don't want so many emails. They just want the summaries. And the same would be true for approvals. Instead of a business owner getting 12 emails with the word approve on all of them, they would get 1 email. Here's all the bills for today. And they could choose to approve that. And so we give control and preferences, because sometimes that's going to be important for some clients, and maybe other clients, they want every single email to come through. Or maybe you as the accountant want all of them, but you want your team just to get summaries, and you'll give some preferences and control. Each individual can control what kind of emails that they get.
So there's not a preference now of saying, don't tell me about every scheduled bill, just tell me about the.
That's correct.
Wait,
that's correct.
No, wait. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. The only 2 email preferences we have today, they're actually on the user profile. And you can talk, basically it's when something's been synced from QuickBooks, and then also if a due date is near. There's the only 2 notifications that we have controls over, but imagine a future where you have 6 or 7 controls here, including summary or detail, right? Almost like a 3-slider. You'd have summary, or on, summary, or off, right? And you'd be able to slide this slider around, choosing the types of emails you want to have in your inbox. That's a good question.
Then the next one is it possible to turn off view to the internal firm bills for accounting staff?
Yes. So let me I'm going to sign out. Let's see.
Do you just change their access to the specific client?
Yeah, so let me switch to, I'm going to just do this as a work, and I'm going to go to Melio just so I can get, I don't want to do Melio. I'm going to log in as my accounting firm here and show that preference. Log in.
I like all these questions. Got
These are
some
great.
good ones.
We might not be able to get to accounts receivable today. Maybe just do accounts payable advanced, and then we could do a second one. We could do a follow-up for just accounts receivable. Okay, let's see.
It's like, where's your firm? There's SBA firm.
Make sure this is the. Okay, got it. So now I'm in as my accounting firm. My accounting firm is Sombrero Bookkeepers and Accountants, right? And my client, Sombrero Apps Company, right? And I can have settings for my firm. I should go to my team. Got it. And so I can go to my team and I can invite different people to my team. And so if I add somebody to my team, I can edit their firm access. So I can manage what clients they go to, and I can edit their firm access. Whoops, that's not good. Why did I get an error? Let's go back.
You should report it. That's what happens when you don't use Chrome.
I don't know if it's Chrome.
I'm just just trying to
Real time. I know. I hear you.
Push your buttons.
So I'll go to my team management. I'm going to add a new person. So I'll add Kathy as a member of my accounting firm here. Got it. And so right here, there's a setting. So when I'm adding Kathy to my accounting firm, I can choose to allow her to see my firm's books. If I don't want her to have access to that, I don't allow her to see those. I remove this check mark. Does that make sense?
I'm wondering how many people
clients to you. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, I wonder how many people check that box without reading it, assuming that you just have to check it.
Well, what I think a lot of it is, a lot of people invited their team to their Melio for their firm before this was an option.
Okay.
Right. And so because we didn't have teams is something that's been added and it's new. We didn't have teams before. So now you have teams and you can actually set up your clients, or you can set up your team and then assign appropriately. And there's two different ways to assign. So I can, let's just add you, Kathy, here. Is that right?
I think something might happen.
QBOchat.com. All right.
Sure. Yeah.
So I'm going to assign clients. So I only have one client in here. So I could choose to assign the client, and I can make you the accountant. I can make you a contributor. Right? I could put approvals on you. Right? So I could set you up just for that individual client. The other ways to do that is I can go the other way, is I could do all my clients at once. Right? I can give a different access to the clients, and then I can, whoops, I should have saved you first. Let me do this. I'm just going to invite you only. All right, so now you're invited to my firm, and I can, let me try something else. Let me do Zoe here. Assign clients. The other way is I can actually assign by the client themselves. Let me see here. Sorry. I think it's because I only have one client. I'm not seeing it on my menu.
Right.
But I can, so just like I can take one teammate and assign them to many clients, I can actually go the other way where I go for my clients and assign teammates as well. The problem is I only have one client in my file, and I think that's why I'm having that problem.
Right.
If that makes sense. I do have a second accounting firm I could sign into and do that as well.
Well, I don't want you to eat up all your time.
No, that's fine.
How about adding a vendor upload to Melio?
A vendor upload.
Yeah.
So like a bulk upload of all the vendors.
It just says, how about adding vendor upload to Melio?
Okay, so you can upload a bill, right? You can do that, but you can't import just like a list of vendors. If you're using QBO, why would you want to import a list of vendors?
Right. Oh, the question's for desktop.
Oh, if you're using QuickBooks Desktop,
Yeah.
yeah, you just
Thank you,
can't import
Laura.
vendors. We can't do it. Right. Yeah.
So do they have to do it twice? Like, so they have that there, and then
Well,
so
you
they
would
export
just
the
add
list
the
from
vendor
desktop.
every time you're about to pay that bill, right? You would add that
Okay.
vendor at that time.
Okay, makes sense.
One at a time when you enter the bill in, because we're not going to pull the bill from QuickBooks either. Right?
Yeah.
So you're going to have to enter the bill. And when you enter a bill, you just enter the vendor at that time.
Okay.
Any other
Do you have
accounts
time for
payable?
AR? Nope.
Got it. All right, let's jump over to accounts receivable a little bit. Kathy, what are we on time-wise here? Like, are you okay going over? Need to tighten it up?
I'm okay going over for a little bit.
Okay. Okay, so I think if you go back and watch the original video, we didn't really have an integration at that time to QuickBooks Online when it came to the accounts receivable, right? Your only option was, I would tell everybody to go. So everybody that gets Melio, oops, melio.me/some, oops. So the workaround before was, hey, if you want to receive payments with Melio, take this URL. So everybody gets their meliome.url. So mine was meliome/Sombrero Apps Company. And I put that in the memo of all my invoices and then on the email template. And I say, hey, if you want to pay by ACH or credit card, go to this URL. They would come here, they would create the payment, and then it would come down my bank feed and sync up and match. So now we actually have an integration with QuickBooks Online. So if I close this and I create an invoice in QuickBooks Online, hopefully this will sync quickly. Let's create an invoice for ADP. I'm not going to email this. I'm just going to not really send this. So we'll just save it. So I'm going to test. I'm going to date this, out in the future, so I don't forget. And I'm not going to send this. So I'm going to say save and close because I don't want to send this from QuickBooks. Right? So I'm going to hit save and close because now this syncs to Melio. So now I'm going to go back over to my Melio and do the settings, count sync. And so now if you see the invoice I created inside of QuickBooks is now synced over and I have an invoice inside of Melio. Right? And now I can send this to ADP to get paid if I want. So I'm going to hit send payment request. Okay. And so for illustration purposes, we're going to pretend I emailed this to this person, right? To Amy here. But what I'm really going to do is I'm just going to get a shareable link and I'm going to just show you what it's going to look like on her side. Copy and close. And I'm going to open up a new incognito because it's a little or a private tab. A private window. There we go. So so this would be the customer getting the email. They're going to have a link that says, hey, you have a bill to pay. Now, when they click on that, instead of going to my generic Melio Me email address, they're going to a very specific one for that one invoice. And so the invoice I created from QBO is listed here. The $2 invoice is attached. And now they can pay me, and they're paying specifically for this $2 invoice. They don't get to change the amount, but they can choose to pay whatever it is. And then once they pay this is going to show up back into my Melio as being paid. So I'm going to switch back over to Melio. So once they schedule the payment, it'll go to in progress. Then once it's been paid, it'll move to paid. And then this payment, receipt of payment, will be pushed into QBO and matched to the invoice, and the invoice will be marked as paid.
Nice. That's
So,
cool.
so the accounts receivable side is now syncing end to end. We are also syncing accounts receivable with FreshBooks, and then also with QuickBooks Desktop as well, just the accounts receivable side. And so it'll pull the invoice, you pay it, you email it from Melio, the customer pays it, and then the payment goes back to QuickBooks Online. Now, again, this is only business to business. You can't do it with other ones. The other thing that we've added to the accounts receivable side that you'll see a version of this come to the accounts payable side is, if you notice, this view right here is very similar to the accounts. So if I go to accounts payable, it's this simple view. It's kind of like Outlook, right? You have your folders on the left, you have your emails here, and then the detail of each email would be on the right. Very similar to using Microsoft Outlook. And then we have our folders, the inbox, scheduled, paid, right? And the accounts receivable side is very similar. And I would call this the normal view of Melio, purple Melio, right? We've started to add, I'm going to go into my settings here, is this concept of an advanced mode or a pro mode, or, you know, I call it accountant's view, if you want to think about it that way, right? I'm going to turn this on. And so now I'm changing the accounts receivable side to this advanced mode. And I might have to refresh my browser here. Let's see. I don't know if it does it instantly. So now what I'm getting is I'm getting more of a table view. Oh, sorry, let me do the.
So something more consistent with the look of QBO.
I'm sorry?
So it's a little bit more consistent with the look of QBO, of just kind of like what we look at, of the table underneath. And
yeah, let me try to get, it's not a little bit of that, but it's really so you have a table view, so you can do batch action. So if you have 100 invoices, right, you could check mark all 100 of them, you can see it all. So it's really a spreadsheet or a table view of the product, right? And so this is on the accounts receivable side. We plan on making similar for accountants and bookkeepers, where you can turn this view on the accounts payable side as well. So you get more of a table view to navigate and do work inside the product. And so you don't have to do as much clicking. Really, the theory.
So this is just on the AR side? This
is just on the AR side, this change. Yep.
Okay.
But this is something that hopefully will be in the accounts payable side as well. So this
cool.
Pro view, advanced view, accountant's view, whatever you want to call it, table view. I don't think we're settled on the name of it. I vote for accountant's view, though. That would be the best.
I like that one.
I'm trying to think of any other. Batch emails, payments, show. Oh, you can export your anything on this pro view, you can export out. So I can choose, you know, whatever's in the view, I can choose to export these out, and it's gonna, you set your dates and it'll export these out to a spreadsheet. We've also added the ability to export out payments. So at any time people have asked, especially, you know, desktop software people, they've asked, hey, how do I get a record of the payments? Because maybe I want to use a tool and import that in a spreadsheet into QuickBooks Desktop. You actually, inside of the company settings here, you can export all the payments as a CSV file. You can create a report and it'll just export all those out on the payment side as well. And I think that's kind of
I see the tax forms
being left. I'm sorry?
I see the tax forms right there. thing. Is that new or has that been around?
That was there before, but essentially that is this. They almost basically did
Right.
the same thing. This just puts a layer of some categorization in there, but it's between all of us here on this call. This is very redundant since you can just do this, because you could just do this, go into Excel, add your category for 10 and 9, and you get to the same spot. It depends.
Okay.
Do you want to work in Excel or do you want to do work in the Melio UI?
Right.
Right. And categorize. A couple other preferences that are kind of things you guys can, that are very, very handy as well. You can now rename your payment methods. So by default, when you add an account, you get very useful names like MasterCard 6926 or MasterCard 3928. I don't know what these are for. I have no clue which one is which. But now you can actually change the name of an account. So if I happen to know what this one is, I can add a label. Let's see. I don't even know. SAC MasterCard.
So I had a client that had I think it was two Amexes with the same last 4 digits. So
Well, that happens a lot, believe it or not. Yes.
Really, it was like the 5th digit was different. And so I needed a little bit more. So yeah, I had to rename things and QBO and everything. But
or if it's different employees of the company, maybe you have 2 of their cards in, 2 different owners, right? And so, or like this Discover was a personal credit card. I want it labeled it properly, right? So you can now go and nickname all of your payment methods, which is just super convenient when you go to pay a bill, because on the bill payment screen, and these carry through all the way, because purple and green are the same. So now when I schedule a payment, all those nicknames show up here as well.
Nice.
Which makes it life a lot easier. Trying to make sure there's no other settings stuff that we changed that were added in. Oh yeah, we added the ability to, on the accounts receivable side, to either you pay the fee for the client, so it's the traditional merchant account service, or the client can pay the fee. So when I have this is my business pays the fee, when somebody goes to pay a credit card on my Melio, on the accounts receivables page, they won't pay a fee. I pay the fee. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense.
All right.
You're like waiting for my reply.
Well, no, I was waiting for your response. The one thing you want to make sure is you have on the receivable side, you do map your bank account you're receiving your money in to a matching QuickBooks account, right? You want it because you want to have the accounting come out correctly. Later on, you'll make sure those are mapped. And that's true for any payment method. You want to make sure the payment method is mapped to the correct bank account or credit card account inside of QBO. I'm trying to think of any other settings that we've added or changed. I think that's it. I think that's it. I don't think there's anything else that we've added in new that we haven't discussed so far.
So one thing I wanted to point out earlier, you forced the sync, and I'm thinking just so that you could get it to go, but it's not something that you have to do. So like I wanted to make it clear, you don't have to do that all the time.
No, so I do it when I'm trying to do a demo.
Right.
But in theory, we're hooked into the webhooks of QBO. So we're watching, and what a webhook is essentially, instead of us reading all the QuickBooks data every 5 minutes or every 20 minutes, and every developer doing that, Intuit uses a technology called webhooks. And what webhooks are is one time I politely go to Intuit and QuickBooks and say, hey, every time a new bill is created for QBO Chat's company file, just send me a notification and send it over. So I'm kind of subscribed to events, and then they come over. So instead of me hammering QuickBooks, is there a new invoice? Is there a new bill? Is there an invoice? New bill? They'll come, but that takes about 5 minutes. Right? Okay. So for a demo like this, nobody's patient enough. But for most people, you enter bills, you're doing work in QuickBooks, you go to lunch, you come back, you open Melio, it's all there, right? It's going to sync automatically and get there.
Right. So if you need immediate sort of thing, you have that option. But otherwise, yeah, it's good to go.
And even the immediate could still be like 5 minutes.
Right.
Because basically you're getting in line to sync between whoever. Like I was actually surprised that I'm always crossing my fingers that when I do something in QuickBooks and I come over that it's gonna be there right away. And
Right.
sometimes it takes a little bit of time.
Well, and it's all these, yeah, it's different systems talking to each other
Yeah.
are not always very timely. And our brains have now gone to, I need everything done in a millisecond.
Yeah.
So
And for a
sometimes I gotta
demo,
wait.
like you want it that way, but outside of a demo, you don't really need it.
Yeah. So I don't see any other questions coming in. So we're good on that.
All right. So just, I guess, kind of to review, just remember we have, melio.com/accountants and accountants@melio.com. The best way to get a hold of us.
Awesome. Well, thank you, David, for coming on with us today and going through all of these things.
And we'll have
Some
to do
great
it
updates.
again, because I imagine we're going to add, international payments. We're going to add partial payments. We're going to do the batch where it's multiple checks to one. We're going to add this accountant's view or pro view or whatever you want to call it, the table view, right? So we're adding functionality, email controls, right? Preferences over email. So we'll be able to do advanced part 2, if you want to call it that, here, maybe in a couple months. Hopefully sooner than later.
Perfect.
I'd love to do it, sometime late October, mid-November. It'd be great to do have enough functionality out there for a second version of this.
That's awesome. You guys have been working hard then.
We're trying. There's always work though. It's never done. Perfect.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Thank you everyone for joining us today. And the recording will be available soon up on the website. It might also be available in Zoom, but because I messed up last week, I'm now nervous that it's going to do something weird. So at the very least, it'll be up on QBO chat.
Perfect. Thanks everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Have a great one. Bye.